his name is Henrik. He made an organization called Lidzélius. He, as a student, was very socially oriented already from the start when he came into the Chaos Pilots. And throughout the years, he tried to figure out, what am I going to do? What is my purpose? What do I want to achieve? And suddenly it struck him, by looking at something that we saw as a waste problem in Denmark, basically that we scrap 400,000 bikes every year. He said, that must be a value for someone. So he set up an organization that export these scrap bikes, or some of them, to Africa, where they are repaired and redesigned and put into place and use by the people. And it's quite interesting to see how that, because now it's actually a growing industry. He started out with something quite small. Now there are ambulances on these bikes. And I know there's a different hospital called Masanga in Sierra Leone that looks into the same system now. So this might be one of the first social things that we have that can be widely reproduced. And on top of that, what Henrik has thought of, that is, in order to make this really sustainable, we need to move something from Africa to Denmark. Right? So if you can move something back, that will be even better. So in the street where I used to live in Copenhagen, Nansensgade, he has set up a store that sells African-designed bikes, basically, and art based on the scrap material from bikes. So it's all a matter of perspective. And if we can change that perspective, we are way on the way. The fifth principle, it is the values. And at the Chaos Pilots, we try to promote our own values in everything we do. It's playful, compassion, real world, balance, streetwise, and risk-taking. Risk-taking for me was yesterday to try to produce this presentation in Keynote. I'd never done Keynote before, and thanks to our technicians here, it worked out. Risk-taking is sometimes moved into pure stupidity, but it is important for us to do. So when we do projects, we try to assess our projects according to these principles. We also try to do it when we hire people. Where does the idea of these values come from? In 1996, we had an outpost in San Francisco where we worked with a man called D-Hawk. By then we had no idea that he was relatively famous, and he was becoming even more famous. He came up with something called a Visa card. And he hadn't written his book, so he lived in Half Moon Bay. It was a very interesting meeting, and he told us the story about Visa, which was intriguing to listen to, where he said that he was a young CEO from a bank office of Bank of America, and he was set in charge for a group of people to figure out, why are we losing so much money on credit cards? And first of all, they need to figure out how big was the problem. And they came back a couple of months later and said, we are losing hundreds of millions on this one, today's value. And then all the CEOs said, we have to do something. No one knew what to do. The process that they went through is the model that we have used afterwards. And what is interesting with that one is that he designed a system which basically transcends the value of money. It provided a global transaction system. And first of all, when he does the presentation, he normally puts out the Visa cards and he asks, does everyone know what this is? Everyone says yes. Then he says, do anyone know who the CEO of Visa is? And there's silence. Then he says, does anyone know where the headquarters is located? Silence. Does anyone know anyone that actually works in Visa? Silence. And he says, we have a revenue of $8,000 billion. And then the conspiracy theory starts to... But you can read the story about Visa on the internet. It's quite fascinating. But the model that he produced, this is our own model based on that one. He said, the problem is that far too many people start with doing stuff. After a while they've been doing it, they try to figure out, how do we do it better? And when they're finished with that, they look into who should actually be doing this. And then they move into, what kind of industry are we really in? You can see this when you see the reconstruction of companies. And then they ask, what do we actually believe in, and why do we do it? And they said the idea should be that you start in the other end, figure out why you want to do this. Then figure out what is important for you, what kind of values can actually support this, your own purpose. And then you move slowly on your way towards the how. At the Chaos Pilots, we had to approach it a bit differently because it became quite a theoretical model where we added the first part of it, where we said it starts with an idea. Normally, never any project or so starts with just a need. It starts with an idea, and then you try to figure out what is the big agenda and what is the small agenda. Maybe I should also say, I think that this model, in a way, it helps a lot when our students get stuck, and also when we work with clients. It helps a lot just to provide it with them. It is about the opportunities that enable opportunities. As an educational institution, an institution that promotes that the students not only get an education, they have to take an education, they have to create their own education. It can be very, very difficult when the students figure out after 2 years that they basically think that the education does not provide what it promises. So, what do you do when you have a group of students that said, you basically have been lying to us. You do not promise what you deliver, and we are pissed. And if you're a less experienced teacher than the one that they had, or a team manager, you get scared. A good team leader says, so what do you want to do then? It's actually up to you. What do you want to do? So we had 5 girls from Denmark and Norway that then went back. And they took the globe and they spin it around and they put their finger down and they said, wherever this finger ends up, that's the place we're going to go. And it ended up in Sarajevo. And as all of you know, in 2001, 2002, they're still suffering from the civil war. And they didn't know so much about it. So they didn't know what to do. But they knew that we have to go there. That's at least part of the equation. You know where to go. And you know who you are. Then you have to figure out what to do. So they went down and they walked around in Sarajevo and said, okay, what is our project? What should we do? Then, before they figured out what to do, they said, maybe this can be interesting for someone else. Maybe it's a good project for someone. 5 Scandinavians in Sarajevo without a clue what to do. Yes. So they called a film documentary company in Norway and said, hi, do you want to film this? And they said yes. So down went a crew of film people from Norway that followed them around. And the girls started to interview a lot of people. And the conclusion they came up with was that basically hope had left Sarajevo. That was basically the conclusion of all of it. The best brains that survived, they left. And you can't build a society on people leaving. So I said, okay, what we have to do is to restore that hope. How can we do that? After a while, they identified a youth house that had been the symbol for youth endeavors throughout the communist period. And they said, can we get access to that house? And the answer was no, because the house was controlled by the municipality and by the mafia. Very much the same people, by the way. And so the girls did everything they had done at the Chaos Pilot, what they learned at the Chaos Pilots. You use all the resources you have. You flirt, you threaten, and you provide these people with an opportunity that they can't refuse. So the municipality said something like this, okay, you can use the outside of the house, but you can't go inside. So the girls did what we also do. We don't invent everything on our own. So they remembered an exhibition from Germany, from Berlin, where they had painted the Bundestag with canvases. They said, we do the same here. We collect a lot of canvases, and we have a lot of young people basically drawing their hopes on it. And we put it all over the house, as you can see here. It took a couple of days. I think there was maybe around 1,000 young people that participated. Coincidentally, I was in Poland, and I watched German TV one night, and this came up. And they had been very good also in organizing and getting support from all over Europe. So there were a lot of people supporting this project.